Let me know, guys. And then please stay safe, because it's crazy out there. It's raining heavy. So more music in just a bit right after Culture Kitchen. I've got let me see. Right, Sky, Up and Over, Stronger and Better. Don't miss out on that one. Lakini right now, as is the routine, at 24 minutes after 7, it's all about Culture Kitchen. And I've got an amazing author in the house. All right, there you go. He goes by the name of Eghosa Imasuen. He's an author and publisher of this really great book that has such an awesome cover in it. The Challengers. Karibu sana Eghosa. Thank you so much. Is that how you pronounce your name?
It's close enough. The G is almost silent, so it's Eghosa.
Oh, interesting. That, me, I have in East Africa, every letter has to be pronounced.
in West Africa, some of them are suggestions.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. But how was your day, my brother?
Oh, it was fine.
Yeah.
Mostly indoors walking. The next book. It's been the weekend was getting to Savo, Nairobi again.
Right.
Then Monday and this morning was detox because you guys are a lot. So
right. We're intense, yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful place.
How many times? Is this your Is this your first time in Nairobi?
No, this is my fourth.
Your fourth time?
Yeah, fourth time. I've been here. I think I was first here in 2014, but each time it's been about books.
Right.
Then I was working at a different publishers, and I came with Nigeria's ex-president to present his book.
Right.
So I think then other times it's been for book festivals, but it's always been a pleasant experience.
I can imagine. Yeah, and this really great book that I have over here, The Challengers. We're talking the disruptive Nigerian entrepreneurs creating a billion naira company. Now, before you even tell us about this, because the story behind this book is just so great, what inspires you to do what you do as an author?
Okay, so my own journey has been really weird. I graduated with a medical degree back in '99. From the University of Benin in Nigeria. Storytelling was always there, but it was mostly oral and cracking jokes, just telling stories. Then while I was an avowed reader. I think that's how I made the mistake of thinking that medicine was for me. Because if you read book, you read medicine.
Right, yeah.
So I read medicine or engineering, but I hated math, but I read a lot, so you read medicine.
Exactly.
Yes, but I started writing in 2005 after an argument with my mother over... It had been 5 years post-medical school, and I was just sitting down there dispensing paracetamol and just chilling. It had been a life of reading and reading and reading. I thought, but she said, "No, that woman lit fire under my bum and said, you know what, get out there and do something. I said, but medicine, I didn't disappoint you guys.
Exactly.
I said, my friend, go and do something.
Something related to medicine.
So just anything. Do something. Hard drivers, those parents. But I ended up picking up writing. I would practice, I would write, practice medicine, write. And slowly life happened.
Isn't that too much?
Not
because
really.
I know medicine is so demanding.
Not really. Medicine is long moments of waiting interspersed with long periods of waiting interspersed with intense moments of high energy and madness.
Right.
So it's like you're waiting for the patients to come in. You're studying. In those downtimes, that was when I wrote.
Right.
And the fact that I'm writing more than doing medicine means that possibly I wasn't that good a doctor anyway. But so it wasn't really... Let's put it this way. I found both easy. Then one of them found me easy.
Right.
So I think the writing just found me easy. I could do both, but writing was just me. So that's how So I think my first novel was published in 2008. My second novel was in 2013. And 13 years later, because of hustle, I finally put my head down and the third book is out.
Yeah, that's a great story. And then I know you had an amazing event at the Africa Forward Fest. So we're talking the Challenger Mindset, rethinking business growth, ownership, and innovation in Africa. What were you trying to achieve with this
event?
With this conversation?
So it was a preview for the book. The book is coming out later in the month, early next month in Nairobi. And if I was going to be in town for festival season, which is June, which is May, so we wanted to talk about it was mostly about true stories first. then finding an angle to also talk about how businesses find themselves, how entrepreneurs find themselves, and not just hustle culture, moving beyond hustle into creating a structure, into creating a business that works. So the conversation there this past weekend was really lovely. There was a lot of feedback from the audience, and we were using this book as a point of entry for those conversations. Yeah, so that was what we hoped it would do. First of all, let people know that the book was coming, then have the conversations among hustlers. How do you move from that to the boardroom? What happens? What did these guys do that made them survive that small step, that inflection point that is really important?
That makes sense. So this is the 4th time you're in Kenya.
Yep.
And what are some of the things that you've learned about the Kenyan business environment?
There was a joke we cracked before we went on here, where you asked me what was the difference between Nairobi and Lagos, and I said Nairobi was like if Lagos took his medicine. So what I see here is that there's on a per transaction level, there's a lot more value. In Nigeria, our currency might be slightly undervalued, so the numbers we talk about look like a lot, but they're actually really small numbers. Yeah, you do maybe less transactions, but slightly higher value.
Right.
Then I also find that that there's because there's less rush at the top because of the stratification of society, that people have access to doors. There are networks here that are slightly much higher value than what we have over there, where the separation between us and government is a lot larger. So what I find is that so if we recently opened our publishing company in Nairobi, January of last year, and the kind of conversations that we are having are really exciting. You know, the ability to reach out to a large percentage of voices, the ability to reach out to a large percentage of an audience is something that is very important in Kenya. There's a chance to really make it big over here because their eyes. And your weather is so beautiful. Yeah,
they talk about the weather a lot.
Yes.
Every other time foreigners come here, they say, I love it. It's bearable compared to home. I'm not surprised. Nairobi, but today it's very extreme. The rains are falling.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this great book, The Challenges, right? So this is the disruptive Nigerian entrepreneurs creating a billion naira company. Why the title, The Challenges? Who are you trying to challenge?
So it's I think the rise of a certain type of Nigerian business person is in direct. So there's a generational shift kind of happening in Nigeria right now. You know the old joke about how those who were born in the 30s and came of age during independence, and 60, 70 years later they are still there. They haven't been able to leave. They had nobody to hand over to, and the generation after them are now in their 70s themselves, so which means that it is likely coming to those born in the 70s and 80s. And that idea of my generation of business people, of human beings, of policymakers, of writers, as we enter our 50s, we are finding out that, oh my God, we might be the ones that have to take on this challenge. But it wasn't given to us for free. So, for example, the characters, the real life people who are the characters that founded this business that are growing in Nigeria, had to find themselves explaining why, when they were opening a bank, to the regulators, that they did not need a banking hall. Or they did not need, why their KYC was assigned to why it was online, why they did not need to have the actual documents if they had access to customs and immigration passport data. They didn't need to have it on file. Why didn't they have a server, their computer server, for where you keep all the banking information? They said, it's in the cloud. The inspector said, what cloud? So in terms of, they had to fight for that space. They had to, so that was the challenging thing. And the funny thing was that they now find themselves now being the old people in the room. And they have to pinch themselves at times when they're dealing with the tech bros coming after them. Because because the classic idea is that so we're the last people to know the relationship between a pencil and a cassette tape. You know? And even compact discs are becoming something that... So standing in beside rotary phone and mobile phones, learning both systems, now becoming the older people in the room, having to challenge for our position, and possibly maybe having to fight to keep it with the brilliant people coming behind us. That's the idea behind the title.
So this is not a fictional book. This is factual.
It's my first non-fiction book.
I love it. So we're talking about a billionaire company, yeah? But when I look at the cover, there's a lot going on, yeah? I look at 5 individuals here. The eyes have so much emotion. Everyone has their own, I guess, identity going on, what are you trying to communicate based on this cover?
So the artwork, the cover is an impression from a very brilliant Nigerian painter called Tolu Aliki. It's from a series of acrylic on canvas called The Billionaires Club, which is quite apt. None of the actual characters look like this, but it was just such a beautiful piece of art that once we reached out to him and we got his permission to use it, it was so kind of him.
I love it.
It's on Instagram, and it pastes snapshots from the series.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I hear you talk, you come off as so passionate about these individual stories. It seems like there was a roller coaster going down, right? And what do you want the reader, I guess, to experience when he or she reads about these characters over here? Would you want us to question them?
Of course.
Would you? How does that engagement look like from your position as an author? What are you hoping that we achieve while we read about these characters?
I think for me it's that storytelling and hoping to engage with an audience. It's about showing them a bit of themselves, but maybe just different enough to surprise and entertain them.
Right.
Because I think the entire point of writing is to trick your reader into an education. If a reader comes to a book with a textbook, you come resisting the knowledge that it gives you. But if you're entertained, you find yourself learning stuff without knowing that you've learned stuff.
It's true. I love that.
So that is the whole idea behind the book. So it's like you remember the old children's books we read when they would say, what is the moral of the story? And how you kind of didn't like that it had a moral. But most times when the story just tells itself, and I have to thank the gentlemen at this, 5 to 7 gentlemen who gave me their time. And who from Nonso Niyi, Bola Jigbenga, Zubi, and the rest at that at VFD in Lagos, who gave me their time to tell their true stories and to present them as people, because it was this issue of, but you're not a banker, how are you going to handle the numbers? I said, oh no, I grew up being trained by one. So, and the numbers were not that important. It was the interpersonal relationships. How do you found from the beginning a broad-based shareholding structure? And how did you not kill yourselves fighting before success happened? And how do you then now preserve that founding structure and still remain friends?
Right.
About a decade and a half later, 15 to 20 years later. Yes, it is a long time, and they've done this for about 20 years now. They're on their 18th year.
Did they grow up together?
Nope. 2 grew up together. Then 2 others became friends in school. So it was like, think of 4 cliques connected by working together. Think of the 2008 financial crisis.
Right.
Everybody is now clear that, those jobs are not that safe. And it's in Lagos. The money is no longer coming. And you say, you know what, we need to found something by ourselves. We need to build something. And they start meeting at a high-rise hotel every Sunday when they are not at work. And the entire point of meeting there was to see the wealthy people driving past so that they never lost their hunger. And they start planning. And from those conversations, they start building stuff. Now, there are several ethnic angles to this. You have to remember that we were born post-Nigerian Civil War. So we grew up with certain ideas about the other, about those who rebelled, those who stayed with the Federation. And you now start seeing one of them remembers that the best thing that happened to him was when his dad, who had questioned why he was starting a business with somebody from the other ethnicity, actually was able to apologize before he died and say, my son, I was wrong.
Oh, interesting.
You guys did great. Now that doesn't mean that they didn't fight. They fought.
I can imagine.
They fought. And I asked them, I said, then why didn't it break? They said, they had lines that they didn't cross. They had
clearly defined lines.
Clearly defined lines. And not really clearly defined, but there were lines you don't cross. Friends know.
Yeah.
People know.
Yeah, you can always tell.
Yeah. So I think for them, what I understood was that you could call someone stupid, you could call someone wrong, you could insult someone's dad in the crew, but you couldn't call someone a thief. That was the line they didn't cross.
I tell you, a line that I would never let my friends cross is calling me unreliable.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, how are you going to look at me like that? I find it so disrespectful. But I know what you're saying. Now, the other thing that I learned about these individuals is just like you said. First of all, they've come from different backgrounds, but they went through a lot of challenges, right?
Yep.
Over the 10 years that they spent, building this company. So I'm imagining there was so much ego. Yeah, those temptations to engage in corruption, stuff like that. So, to me, when you tell me about these folks over here, I can picture some people that I know out here in Nairobi who are in the startup ecosystem, and I guess in the come up, now that your company is probably 2 years old, you want to come up for somebody who's already successful. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I feel like there's so much pressure for some of these business owners, entrepreneurs to look the part, you know what I mean, while building. Instead of actually working on the success principles of your company, making sure that it's stable, the foundation is functional.
Yes.
Some people, especially the younger folks, they would rather look like an entrepreneur.
They look the part than build.
Yeah. So is there a similar situation like that in amongst the partners?
Yeah. So for them, they had jobs, and for a long time, their business couldn't afford them. Their business couldn't employ them, so they kept their jobs.
Okay.
And you have to think that for the first 8 years, their business couldn't afford them. This business started in 2009, and they eventually moved into the company in 2016.
Oh wow!
That was when the company couldn't afford them. Their company couldn't afford, and in between that, there were fights. About 2 or 3 of the friends left. So we normally say that there are 5, but they're actually maybe more like 11 or 10.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But there were 5 channels. So there were 5 key channels or 5 groups of friends who came together, but they were more like 11 or 12, and they lost 2 of those major channels during the period towards consolidation. And although those guys who left are still friends, but you can imagine starting a company with contributing 2.5 million naira, then leaving about 6 years later, and you take out 18 million naira, your 2.5 becomes 18.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
But if you had stayed for 5 months, your 18 would have become 200.
Exactly.
200 million. That is the kind of switch that they made. So most times what I seem to understand, even when I started my own business in publishing, was that I had a job. I had a place of earning that kept me steady, that allowed the business to grow. Because in our time and in their time, it was bootstrapping.
Yeah.
There was nothing like VC, no venture capitalists and all that. So the world has kind of changed more now for the newer folk.
I agree.
Where you can get people who have seen the success drive of your people, of those who came before you.
Yeah.
And there are now funds waiting to guess at the next massive growth.
Right. Yeah.
So you get a lot of funds in, but if you do not understand that you actually still need to build value, you end up looking the part and your business crumbles.
I love that.
So I can agree with that.
It's true. Yeah. What's the company about?
So the VFD group, they call themselves an agnostic investment company. Basically, they invest in whatever they like.
Wow.
And it started with their own funny history of having the famous idea when they were in the hotel. They had an idea for fractional real estate, which was the idea to buy a property, own the property, sell units of it, and hold the monopoly on managing the property. Fractional real estate. That has gone on to become a big deal. And they raised money. They didn't raise enough money to buy anything. They couldn't afford anything. And while looking for what to do, they actually opened a barbing salon. They had this grand idea of having a chain of barbing salons, a barbing salon franchise of high-end executives. By the time the barbers showed them pepper, you guys call it pili-pili?
Yeah.
Rubbed it in their eye.
What?
Clippers will be getting spoiled.
Yeah.
Customers are not coming.
Right.
Okay, let's change it to franchise. Let them pay money and we'll not pay them. Every day they have to spend money on different things, so they shut it down.
Yeah. So they were being reactive.
They were being reactive. They had a great idea, but they were being naive. The real world doesn't work in air conditioning. So eventually they became they had a lot of money. And before you know, friends started reaching out, please, can I have a loan? Can I have a loan? Can I have a loan? Recovery from 2008 was happening. There was a new vibrancy. And young boys were earning faster, needed to build themselves back up. So they started using the capital that they saved, turned it into a small bridge financing business. Next thing, they got a microfinance banking license. Next thing, they got a bureau de change license. Next thing, one of them got a massive job as an accountant in a high-value company. And all the senior executives said, I like what you guys are doing, started investing. So right now, they own a mortgage bank. They're expanding into a regional bank soon. They've expanded so far that the Nigerian Stock Exchange Group, the company that runs the Nigerian Stock Exchange, they control a block that holds 30% of it, because they're trying to change certain rules about stockbroking in Nigeria so that they can open the investment market up. So and the reason why I like this is that the cliche is that behind every great fortune there is a crime, but you can see where the story of what happened to them is out in the open.
Right.
And that's why it was so interesting having to, I was friends of friends. And I said, I really like what those guys are doing. Yeah. Can I meet them? And I meet them. I said, can I tell this story? Because your dynamic is really weird. And
I agree.
Really important.
Yeah.
So it was, so that's the, that's what the company does. The company does everything. And I think they're even they've expanded into Ghana. I think they are in Rwanda for their East African branch. And so it's just the VFD group. Yeah.
Yesterday I heard somebody say how certain success stories are so random. Most of them are not planned.
Yeah.
They just morph into something.
But you are prepped for the morphing.
Yes.
So most times I think what they had from the very beginning, and this is the difference between them and hustle culture, was that they were really strong on corporate governance.
Right.
So I remember one part where there's a part where one of the early high value investors, based on the job that one of the founders got, actually came for a meeting and said that he has never seen so much paperwork for so little money.
Right.
He was laughing at the young executives. You guys are taking so much time with minutes of meetings for how much money? And it was both a tease and praise. That please never stop doing this, because that's what preserves what they were building. So they had a corporate structure, and even their strategy for expanding, they had a first company. And when they opened a new one, that new one had no money, so it would hire services from the first company on credit until it found its feet.
Wow.
And that's how they expanded. And it's still the same structure till today. The home company, if they invest in your firm, for example, because they cannot do a VC kind of business, if they invest in your company, they send accountants, HR specialists and everything from the parent home company into the new business. Yeah. Your cash flow is not affected. You just owe that money until the company stands on its feet.
Correct.
It's a great idea for anybody thinking of hopping into especially mostly for the bootstrapping class. Those who are able to get money from VC and able to attract them, that does what it does. But if you're going to make the grind from the ground up, you need to have strategies that work.
Yeah, I agree. How is the startup ecosystem in Nigeria generally?
It's a generation below mine. So I look at them with surprise. It's really brilliant. There are always great ideas coming in. It's kind of died down now. I think most of the money has been pulled back, but over the last decade, when it was really high, you always heard of the success stories. Yeah. Of course, they had the incubators that were doing their things. You heard of young people doing brilliant numbers. And now that the clouds are clearing, you now see the winners and the losers. Yeah. Some really massive entities have come out of that. Of course, I think our own fintech industry is legendary around the world and on the continent. From Flutterwave to Paystack to the solution to Piggyvest, the kind of solutions that they do. And I think even on your end too, you guys have massive success stories.
Of course, Safaricom.
Yes, exactly. Mostly in the finances services industry and what they do. So it's been a great help. Wish they could do more than fintech. Wish some of the other ideas could work. But most of those ideas are affected by the kind of the capricious regulatory environment that we face. You're scared to invest in something when the next day an election is lost and the rules change.
It's true. It's one of those things that really scares away investors. Let's come back and further this conversation. We are reviewing this book, The Challengers, and the author is right here with us. He's called Eghosa Imasuen. We'll be back shortly. I've got some Up and Over, Stronger and Better by Sky, and right now I can see it's 12 minutes to the top of the hour. This is Kev, and the show is After Hours on Spice.
Online, mobile, and on radio. Facebook at SpiceFM KE.